was something very deep, very holy, and very beautiful, and something which is mind-blowing. You know who came a lot of times Friday night? Tim Leary, who was at that time one of my best friends, and he was into LSD, right? And he would come a lot of times, and he says, my whole life I'm looking to turn on young people without drugs. I haven't found it yet, but he says, I think you Jews have it. Your Shabbos seems to be like the strongest drug in the world.
In Tim Leary's book Flashbacks, which is his autobiography, he talks a lot of, he goes through the whole history of that era, and he makes a veiled reference to what he calls a rock and roll rabbi. And he doesn't call you by name, but I don't know anybody else really that...
No, it was very close to me. He told me that a lot of times when he takes LSD, he's putting on my record, and it fits. Usually when you take LSD, you cannot listen just to straight music, it's too way out, So it was a great honor that he says he's listening to my songs. Mm-hmm. But I want you to know, in the 60s, the whole drug scene was that kids want to get out of their shell. They look at their parents, and they see it's dead. People are married for 30 years and complete strangers. So it was a whole generation that really, really wanted to be close to each other. They really wanted to find a way. And sadly enough, we Jewish people, we had a chance to take over the world at that time. But once I spoke at that time to all those great giants, so to speak. Not the super tough giants, so the half giants. I told them we need new yeshivas, we need new schools, because thousands of kids are on the way back, and the yeshivas don't know how to handle it. They laughed in my face in the 60s, because at that time it wasn't in yet, the whole tshuva movement. All of a sudden in the 60s, in the 70s they discovered it, and one great rabbi once said at a convention, because of us, meaning him and the rabbis, there's a tshuva movement. I said to his son, can you please tell your father my name? Despite people like your father, the tshuva movement is going so strong. And today, you see, what is Shmuel? We still haven't done justice yet. Because there are thousands of young people who are looking for something so deep and so exalted. And see, we have it. The Torah has everything. I can tell somebody what's Shabbos, don't drive the car, don't go to the beauty parlor, eat chicken soup, and read the Jewish press. That's Shabbos.
Mm-hmm. So was the...
But when someone wants something deeper, what do you want to say?
I'm trying to get some clarity on this. The 60s with the drugs and all that. So was it that you say that it was a time of searching, like a spiritual searching?
Unbelievable, yeah.
And that it was students of yours talk about that period as there was a light on.
Yeah.
At that time, like there was the light of Hashem was
really shining deep.
Shining deep, and that people were like blown out trying to create a vessel to catch it.
That's it. You see, in the 60s, the light was strong, but we had no vessels. In the 70s, everybody was so desperate, there was no light and no vessels. And now, in the 80s and 90s, some of the light is coming back slowly. And I just hope people have vessels for it.
Shlomo, we're going to break for a commercial, and we'll be right back, okay?
What's the commercial? How to sell yarmulkes, right?
We're back with Shlomo Karbach, and we're talking about the 60s. We're talking about India, going out to the ashrams to save the Jews, out to spiritual festivals during the 60s, early 70s. Tell me about going out.
80s, I'm still going everywhere. You know what it is like? You see what it is? In the 60s and early 70s, the coming back to Yiddishkeit was like atomic explosions. And they came back by Concorde, by missiles. Today they come back on a bicycle, or maybe in a taxi. It's not those you know, and we missed it sadly enough. But yet I still meet some kids all over the world who are ready to jump in a Concorde and come to Yerushalayim. And I have to tell you something, it's not only the Jewish kids we have to reach, because I tell you something unbelievable. There are a lot of Jewish kids out there who are so assimilated. If you only talk to Jewish kids, they won't listen to you. You have to talk to the world. And maybe they'll pick it up, hopefully.
I'll share a story how you affected my life that you probably don't even know about. Before I was really ready to start keeping Shabbos, I was at a Hasidic home and for Malava Malka. And they took out one of your albums and they said, have you ever heard of the Rock and Roll Rabbi? And so I looked at the album and go, wow, a rabbi with long hair. I have long hair, I can relate to that. You know. And so they put on the album and said, but no, we just listen to his music. We just listen to his music. He's not, just the music. And so there was this kind of like dichotomy that they wanted your music, but there was a friction, there was a conflict, there's, who is the Shlomo? And what's the controversy that kind of overshadows all your good work?
I tell you what, I think it's a privilege that God put it in such a way that people don't really know what I'm doing. Because the Talmud says that God's blessing is only there where it's hidden from the world. People ask me, okay, so how many people have you turned on to Shabbos? I say, what should I tell you? What will it add to you or to me if you know the numbers? You know what it is like? You know, according to real Chassidus and Kabbalah, the night is not dark. The night, there's so much light that it has to be hidden. The night is hiding the light behind it. And you know, the night is the greatest thing in the world. You get so close to people, and at night, my mother says that you can only really learn at night. So, basically, I'm a night man. You know, you know, it's crazy. You know, without bragging, I really reached a lot of kids, right? And then they have those big conventions about Tshuva movement. Think they ever invited me?
Why do you think that why do you think that is?
Because they're still straight.
They're
straight. You know, I tell you what, they have a big outreach program in New York, everywhere, and they have a convention. What are they talking about? Fundraising 1, fundraising 2, right? You know, they call themselves professional outreach. Can you imagine, could you say professional outreach? Your heart has to ache for every Jew who doesn't keep Shabbos, and you want them so much to keep Shabbos. I'm professional? I asked one of them, are you a professional husband? Are you a professional father? If you do it with all your heart, you're not professional.
The postscript of my story is, it was in Toronto about 2 weeks after that Shabbos, where I listened to your record, that it was about midnight, and I got a call that I had to go out to Los Angeles. And I was driving in a taxi, and I recognized you walking along the street from the picture on your album cover. And I told the taxi driver, stop, let me get out of the car. And I ran up to you and said, Shlomo, I'm going out to Los Angeles, you don't know me, but I'm starting to get interested in Shabbos. Who can you send me to? He sent me to Rav David Montag. And it happened that my problem was that I couldn't justify, I couldn't get a good answer from anybody how you can have predetermination and free will. They seem to work at odds with one another. So who do you send me to? You send me to a guy who works in a planetarium, who's a professor of physics, who teaches me the theory of relativity, and then how the Maharal's explanation to physical miracles. And it was like, that was it. You know, you don't even know about
He's one of my top people, David Montag.
Yeah.
He does more for Yiddishkeit than 95% of the rabbis in Los Angeles.
His organization is Or Hadash, I think.
Or Hadash,
Right. So
he's still one of my best.
So what about the ashrams when you did India?
You see what it is? The ashrams basically are very holy places, because people there are they're not looking for pleasure, for physical pleasure. They're not looking for money. They're really dedicated people. And a lot of Jewish kids didn't find this dedication among us. I mean, you can say we don't have it, but those real Yidden, I mean the real holy Yidden, they don't know their address, right? So what we have to do is give them a little address, like the Montag or the Amshna Mareve, I have to tell you an unbelievable story. Not as good as yours. But anyway, I was somewhere at a party in San Francisco, and someone interviewed me about the great giants today in the spiritual Jewish world. And the Amshnover, you know, have you ever been by big Rebbes? Someone says L'chaim, there are 1,000 people say L'chaim, L'chaim, L'chaim. Everybody L'chaim, right?
Right.
The Amshnover, the holy Amshnover, it could be 1,000 people, but he says L'chaim to every individual. Listen to the way he says it. I won't be so dramatic. He says, L'chaim, Toiv, El Shul. He says all his heart. And you think he's keeling over from exhaustion. After every person says L'chaim. And somewhere up north in a little commune, this boy is leaving for India, and someone says, I have here a little tape for you. Puts on this tape where I tell about the Amshnover. And this boy liked it so much. He says, you mean to say there's this great rabbi who says L'chaim to every person? It's all his heart. I want to stop on the way to India to see him first. And he's now a big Amshnover chassid, you know?
So, I guess towards the beginning of the 70s started the Moshe.
Yeah. You see, most of those kids who went through the doors of the House of Love and Prayer ended up in Israel. And in San Francisco, we had a House of Love and Prayer, but in Israel, it would be beautiful to have a little village of love and prayer. But, so, you know which village we have now? Modi'in. Modi'in is the city of the Maccabees, of the high priest. The high priest during the time of the Holy Temple was living in Modi'in, because in the time of the Holy Temple, Jerusalem ended in Modi'in. And Jerusalem was a giant city. And